Good evening, Hawkeye Nation. Have the Iowa men figured something out here? 3 straight wins. And now questions to be answered, much different questions than questions from 2 weeks ago. And hopefully some of you will help sort through this with me, because I made the comment about 2 weeks ago that I thought they needed to win 3 straight, specifically with games against Rutgers, against, of course, Minnesota this evening, and against Nebraska looming. What did they do? They went out and won 3 straight. So I don't know. I don't know what we got here. We're gonna have to figure this out together, because I don't know. I'm a little bit I'm kind of in an awkward. I don't even know what you call this right now, like an in-between state of mind. Like I don't know how to feel. So hopefully you all will help me sort this all out. We got about 100 people on here. Appreciate everybody being patient. A little bit of delay after the game was over. I was not home for the game, and so had to make my way back to my studio. And so I'm back here talking about Iowa's 86-77 win over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. You see the box score scrolling at the bottom of your screen. What a night it was for Ben Krikke and Josh Dix. Obviously the transfer from Canada, Ben Krikke, or actually I should say from Valpo, originally from Canada, added 25 points today on 17 attempts, 5 boards, 3 assists. And then Josh Dix, his second straight impressive outing with 21 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds in the absence of Fran McCaffrey. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with the starting lineup once Patrick is back. It sounds like not a serious issue, just an ankle sprain that he's dealing with. Tried to give it a go pregame and was not able to get out there. So, probably day-to-day is my guess. But the question is, when he returns to the lineup, is he a starter? I think history would say yes, based on what Fran McCaffrey does and how he operates. And I don't believe that's because it's his son. We can talk about that here in a little bit, but those are my 2 cents here to start things off. Couple plugs before we get started here, folks. A reminder to everybody, if you're not subscribed, I don't know why you're not subscribed. First of all, please do that. Very simple to do. Doesn't cost you any money if you're new. Maybe you I know some people, I know we're all like addicted to our phones and social media now, but I know some people who are like, hey, I don't even know what YouTube is. I've had people say that to me, but I've seen your show. Somebody's told me about your show. How do I find it again? Well, an easy way to get started is making sure when you find it here, you're subscribed. So scroll down, hit that little subscribe button. And if you haven't downloaded the YouTube app, that makes it easier to access. And of course, hit the like button as well. Very simple to do. A little thumbs up below the video stream here. That all helps us, helps me, helps the show grow, helps us in the algorithm. So please do that. And I do want to thank you in advance for doing that. Also, I've got my CD3 Laces Up sweatshirt on a very cold day. How could I not be wearing the Cooper DeJean sweatshirt on a day where, did we hit 0 today in Story County? I'm not so sure. Go to rtithreads.com to check out apparel lines for Zach Lutmer, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Aaron Graves, and more athletes coming. This awesome NIL lineup brought to you by RTI Threads. Also, Cooper DeJean, still a Cooper DeJean merchandise available over at cd3lacesup.com. That kid will be playing on Sundays next year as he's awaiting his NFL draft selection, and hopefully he'll be good to go for the combine, etc. Visit www.cd3lacesup.com to check out Cooper DeJean's apparel line and his merch line. Speaking of RTI Threads, our RTI Threads player of the game could have went with a couple of different people on this one. Josh Dix, 21 points, 5 assists, 4 boards. If you're tracking this, folks, this is his second straight player of the game award here on the show. And, the numbers-wise, you could easily argue, hey, Ben Krikke deserves it. Boy, he really had, especially that first half, he was instrumental in keeping Iowa in front the majority of that first half after they fell behind early, and really fell behind early. I mean, ugly start, but Ben had 12 points to lead all scorers, the only guy in double figures in that first half, 12 big points. And again, Josh didn't really get going until the second half, had 7 points in the first, really struggled out of the gate. I felt was a little bit wobbly, fell down 2 or 3 times. Don't know if the floor was a little slippery, or it seemed like there were a number of times where guys were falling and hitting the deck. Maybe it's due to the temperatures outside and the raised floor. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But kind of an odd start. Iowa got raced early, and it was the numbers in front of me. Was it 17-3, 17-2, somewhere in there? Iowa really struggled out of the gates, and then just kind of meandered their way back into the game. And before you knew it, Ben Krikke was hitting shots. Iowa was getting to the rim. And this was not a night where they hit a bunch of shots from outside. I mean, it just wasn't. Iowa did their work inside for the most part, made 3 threes on the night, only attempted 13. So they took what Minnesota gave them, shot 54% from the field in spite of that 3 for 13 effort from 3. And, not a big day for Peyton Sandford. Didn't hit double figures, had 9 points, 4 rebounds, had a really good look at what would have been a dagger 3 in the last couple of minutes of the game. Came up short on that one. Was not his best night in spite of the 33 minutes played. But this team is starting to show a number of different guys that can step up, whether you're talking about Josh Dix, Tony Perkins, Owen Freeman, Ben Krikke. Could we see an emergence of someone like Brock Harding, DeSante Bowen? It'd be nice to get Patrick McCaffrey going on a regular basis. But the group that they rolled with tonight went on the road against I think probably an average Big Ten team. I'm certainly not going to go so far as to say that Minnesota is good. They were a disaster last year. That arena was half full tonight. This was a game Iowa needed to win, but it's still a road win, still a good win for the Hawks, and a win against a team that was 3-2 in the Big Ten Conference heading into this one. So congratulations to the Hawkeyes. They've rattled off 3 straight conference victories after starting the season 0-3. And we have a season to talk about, folks. We got a season. So let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We'll start with Doug, who was on here bright and early. Doug, welcome to the show. I'm sure you're in a good mood this evening.
I've had the most interesting 2 weeks of my life I've had in a long time. We went to the game on Friday. I had a doctor's appointment in Iowa City. We got there Thursday night, and we went to Hawk Talk with Fran McCaffrey and Jerry Dolphin. And I'll just say this: Fran getting emotional after the game, seeing. We were at a table. My dad said, "Don't make a fool of yourself, Doug. Don't go over and bug Fran." And he's like, but Fran came over to us, and then later on, while he's doing the show, Owen was on the show, and he told Owen, "Go over there and say hi to that family over there." And Fran over the last 4 days has showed me a lot of his character and who he is. My parents were very impressed with him. It just. Again, we got to meet Dolph and Bobby down there at the Hyatt Regency. They do their show. You guys can always send questions into Fran, if you want. I mean, all of you say stuff to Cory, but go to the source. If you want to ask a question to Fran, he has a show every, I think Mondays usually, but it was Thursday last week because of this weather. And then on Saturday, after going to the game, we were snowed in, had to stay an extra day, and I got to talk at the Coral Ridge Mall to your favorite Hawkeye, Matt Gatens, for a couple minutes. And you talk about a really nice guy. I am so impressed with you guys. See these people, and like I said, they're real people. And everyone we met in Iowa City and being snowed in, and everyone we met from my parents were very impressed. These are really, believe it or not, Fran's Fran. He's a very emotional guy, and he got very animated a couple times. He was talking to a couple other donors while we were at the Hyatt Regency, and he got animated a little bit about the refs. He does not like refs. He just brings them up in casual conversation. Even you're like, okay, Fran, but I was very happy that, like I said, everything's starting to go the right way personally. I was dealing with some stuff, as I let Cory, and I don't know if anyone cared, but I want to thank like Lemansky and a couple of the other people that did reach out and say some nice things to me about what I was going through. And like I said, it was awesome. I had a good doctor's appointment on Friday and got to see a big win, got to see them beat our God here in Ames, Freddie. Got home safe, no damage to my car. At least I don't think so. Yeah. And as far as
good for you, and just real quick, Doug, happy to see you're home and you look good. So I'm glad to see you safe. And I am curious to get your thoughts on just where your mind is from these last 3 games, because as I kind of led here with my little dialogue, my opening dialogue, I don't really know how to feel yet. And we don't have Coach Close tonight. He's unavailable this evening, but I'll be anxious to get him back here soon and be able to discuss where we're at. Obviously, they got a horse of a game coming up against Purdue, but just let the 3 games sink in right now, because, 2 at home is impressive. Good Nebraska team, mediocre Rutgers team, decent Minnesota team, but on the road. And to do it back to back to back with your back up against the wall at 0-3 is a testament to good coaching and is a testament to the character of the team. So I don't know whether to say at 3-3, okay, tournament's back in play. But I mean, it's got to be that mindset. Like, the players have to be looking at it. I mean, they're not looking ahead, but the goal is the NCAA tournament. You're at 500 in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I went back and watched your show after the Northern Illinois game. And I said, hey, don't overreact after they lose to Wisconsin. The 3 next games are very winnable. You pulled up the schedule and we discussed that. Nothing that has happened in the last 4 games has surprised me. Now I had a high school coach. He was a very good high school coach, Coach Harrison Barnes and Doug McDermott, and he always broke our season down into 4-game seasons. And so our next 4 games, and I always, even as a fan, like doing that. Our next 4 games are Purdue, Maryland, and then those 2 road games. And we'll know more after those 4 games. Right now we're 3-3. If they lose all 4 of those, that's not good. But those are the next 4 is a tough stretch.
Yes.
So because they have 2 road games, even Michigan on the road, they just beat Ohio State today. So, right now we're where we need to be. Coach said it before. Fran said it. A lot of people said 10-10 will get you in. I'm not sure this year. I'm looking at some of the net ratings, and there's not a lot of quad 1 wins we can get at home. So, but let's look. I'm not going to evaluate anything until after the next 4 games, and then because I think yeah, one game at a time. But I think it's good to look out a little bit further ahead to know how crucial that game really is. A loss to Purdue isn't the worst thing ever. Now, a loss to Maryland, Purdue, Michigan, and Indiana wouldn't be good in the next 4 games. So, yeah. So
first of all, they get Maryland at home.
Yep.
And
that should be a win. But you never know.
I hope. Here's what I hope, Doug. We've got a little bit of a break before the game against Purdue on Saturday. That game is also at home. I hope that some of these tickets get grabbed. I mean, I know it's been like pulling teeth to get people into Carver. But with the weather probably going to, I know it's still going to be cold over the weekend, but next week it's going to be warmer. I hope maybe people will be kind of biting at the bit to get outside and do things after this winter storm that the state has endured. And maybe these next 2 games, you get some people in there and create an environment. I don't expect them to beat Purdue. Now, I'm not going to say they can't because they're at home. And
Nebraska did it.
Nebraska did it. Northwestern did it. You still got to play. Like, you can't go into the losing mindset. But if they don't win, fine. They need to win one of those 2, though. And I say you will beat Maryland. Okay, all of a sudden we're 4-4, and you're going into a stretch. Yeah, revenge game against Michigan on the road, very winnable. I know they beat Ohio State tonight. They lost 5 straight after beating Iowa. That was a terrible loss for the Hawks at home.
Yes.
At Indiana is tough. Ohio State neutral's tough. I mean, they got tough games in there, but they're winnable games. And I go back to what you said and what I've talked about, what Coach Close has talked about. This 3-game stretch was huge. I thought they had to win all 3.
Me too. As far as if they were going to have any shot of the tournament. I mean, and they did that. So now we're back that we have a shot, for the NCAA tournament. I know that might not be good enough for some people that want Sweet 16s and stuff. Well, at least you have to make the tournament before you can get to the Sweet 16. So let's go over one topic that's probably pretty big in the chat and pretty big. Most people, and I've already brought it up, is, another player. Well, I don't want to bring – again, a lot happened Thursday night while I was at the Hawk Talk. I got to meet Jack. And that was I had a little talk with him, just told him to keep his head up. I'd love for him to be a Hawkeye. I tried to do a little recruiting. We'll see what happens. But as far as Patrick's good enough to play. Him not starting might be a good thing for him as well. I don't know. I thought the Nebraska game, he did perfectly fine. He played his role. He didn't play great. He didn't play bad. Josh has been playing awesome. I'm glad he was your RTI player of the game. I was going to say if he wasn't, I was going to be a little disappointed in you, Cory. But Josh is doing a great job. He is more of a natural fit, and that lineup with Ben at the 4 is a better lineup. It is a more traditional lineup, and I think Josh can be the shooter that we think he can be. Both you, me, Coach. I think he can be. And I think
best shot on the team.
Yeah.
Best shot on the team.
Yes. I mean, Peyton just sometimes those shots, like, get your legs under you. Why are you doing that?
Shot is never, and I like Peyton Sandfort. By the way, as it relates to character, Peyton Sandfort seems like a terrific guy. Like,
yes,
stupendous guy. Like, I have heard nothing but good things about his family. Such a courteous person. I mean, he is one of their best players. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, as it relates to shot and form, Josh, I don't think there's anyone beating Josh Dix's form on this team. And you're right about Peyton. Sometimes he takes, I know he's got a quick release naturally, but it seems like his shots are never the same.
No.
Like sometimes they look like he's short arming it. He's kind of pushing it. Sometimes he's shooting too fast. I mean, I don't know what it is. It just seems like his shots are never the same. And that's not usually a recipe for success. Now he can get real hot, but he can also get into slumps. And he tonight from 3, Peyton was 1 of 6.
That's probably the reason why he's a streaky shooter, is that, just the, Coach, I've taken clinics, shooting clinics from Coach. I told you I've even bought his video. You really have to be consistent in how you shoot. And, everyone knows that. That's not, but, I think the thing with Peyton is that, he always thinks he's got the green light. And sometimes off those curl cuts, he needs just to take a second, He
can hit those. He can hit those off balance shots, but they're not high percentage shots. Yeah. Just like Caitlin, I made the comment to Kasheen Alexander the other night. when Caitlin comes off screens and she's falling to the side, she can make those, but she's much better when she can, even with her step back, step a few feet further back behind the arc, square her shoulders, and just wait. Everything is so much more crisp and formed. And I just think that's, I'm not a shot doctor, but I think
Coach
coaches
is.
agree with that. It's just you've got to be able to replicate form over and over again. And Josh Dix does that. He's struggled, but his shot is pure, it's clean, and it's basically the same every time.
Going back to what we're saying, I don't bench Patrick. I don't care if you start him or don't start him. Patrick probably should be around more like 20 minutes a game, and Dix probably should be 25 plus minutes a game. I look at minutes more than I look at who started the game. It's who finished the game that matters. And Josh didn't look good actually starting today. You talked about it. That ball looked slippery.
Josh Dix fell twice. Just didn't run into anybody. Just fell down.
Yeah. I was concerned there for a second after we boasted him up. I was like, dude, don't have a bad game now. But he turned it on. And again, one thing I want people to realize too is I wouldn't say Nebraska and Minnesota are bad teams. They're improved over last year, but their records are deceiving because they just haven't played anybody. So, when we see 12-5, that's not a 12-5 basketball team. No offense.
Well, a lot of teams have.
They are. That is their record.
But I will say this, Doug. One comment I made during the game is you look at the standings and they keep showing the standings. I think Gary said this more last year. I'm going to push this narrative this year because I think it's fair. There are a lot of middling teams in this league.
Yes.
This is not a great league. I know Fran wants to tout it as a great league. I think it's a solid league, and I think it's a balanced league. But there aren't a bunch of Michigan State's a disaster right now. Just when you think they're going to turn it on and they beat Baylor by 20, they can't win a Big Ten game.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, there's a lot of teams 3-3 right now. There's a lot of teams, I'm shocked. Wisconsin, they might start really taking and making a distance between themselves. They keep winning, and because I think Purdue might lose to us. I don't think Purdue is unstoppable, and Wisconsin just keeps winning. And again, I thought we could. It takes a lot of good bounces to win on the road.
Well, but they should have listen. They should have won at or against Michigan. Just for the sake, Michigan's not very good. It's a home game. You can't drop that one.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin played badly against Iowa. So I know that's that's one way of looking at the situation. But if you look at it that way, you could argue that Iowa should be 5-1.
Yes, you could,
because they were they were not going to beat Purdue. Purdue was a rout, and it may be a rout Saturday. We'll see. They play Wisconsin at home also later in the year. So it'll be interesting. But those are some games they gave up, and so they got to get one back somewhere.
Well, two last points. One, and a lot of people, there's probably someone who disagree with me. Fran's one of the people that said this to me. A couple other coaches have said this to me. In college basketball, there's not that much difference from a 15-win team and a 25-win team. It's, it's a couple possessions here or there. It's a player. I was just thinking, what if this team would have had BJ Mack or somebody like that? There's not that much difference. It's a couple possessions a game. So I still have no idea where this team could be. The other thing is, like you said, 10-10. I don't think it's really that big an accomplishment this year in the Big Ten, just because there's a lot of just average teams. And
I don't know if 10-10 gets you in. I think 11-9. If at 11-9, I'm nervous, but I'm feeling decent on Selection Sunday. 12-8, I'm feeling good. 10-10, it's hard to project that far down the road. They may be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the Big Ten tournament and a lot of other things. Off topic, last comment, because I saw the Fab Five was there, and somebody made the comment that Michigan would have won that national title in '93. They were still down by 2 when Chris Webber called the timeout. So anyway, off topic. they tried to say that they would have won the national title if you never done that. You were still down by 2. All right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know what you're talking about because I wasn't alive in '93, Doug. But
well, Chris Webber took the rebound and dribbled down the court with about 30 seconds left, and the Michigan was down by 2. Calls a timeout. They didn't have any timeouts, became a technical foul. They made the 2 free throws and got the ball back. Now North Carolina's up by 4, and everyone said, well, Weber wouldn't have called the timeout, they would have won the game. Well, they were still down by 2 when he called the timeout and got the technical. Does that make any sense now?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it, sir. Yeah, good stuff. In answer to Brian's question here in the chat, says, I know it's a basketball show. Will you be posting about Eric Alt? Yes, I will. As it relates to Brennan Marion, the UNLV OC, I was not planning on posting about this because if I posted about every rumor regarding the offensive coordinator search, I'd be posting every day, and maybe that would get a lot of views, but I just don't really want to do that. Based on what I've been told, I'll just say this, Brian, based on what I've been told, that Brendan Marion rumor is just that, a rumor. And I have no reason to believe he's a candidate for the job at this point. So, again, don't know where these things start. I think a lot of them are just people that don't have enough, that have too much time on their hands and happen to own Twitter accounts that have a few followers. And then, this is the end result. Jordan says, I checked today. There weren't a ton of tickets available through the university. I'm assuming he's talking about for Saturday. So that's good news. And of course, again, that game against Maryland might even be bigger because chances are they lose Saturday against Purdue. But you play Maryland back home, opportunity knocks against a solid Terrapins team, but a game at home. You're going to probably lose to Purdue at home. You already lost to Michigan at home. You do not want to drop another one at home if you want a chance to make the NCAA tournament, which right now has to be the goal at 3-3. Before we get to our next caller, I want to thank Iowa Smokehouse. They're sponsoring our call-in line and this show. Iowa Smokehouse, tasting is believing with their thick and tender cuts of beef jerky, their original meat sticks. They've also got jalapeno and bacon-based products. Check it all out at iowasmokehouse.com. You can also follow them on social media at Iowa Smokehouse on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Use the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com for 15% off your order. Iowa Smokehouse, tasting is believing. Let's go to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. We have got Cory, the other Cory, on hold. Cory, welcome.
How's it going? How are you doing?
Going good, man. How are you?
I'm chilling. I'm getting over a little bit of a stomach bug at the moment, so I'm trying to help, trying to get myself to feel a little bit better, and a Hawkeye win always helps.
Yeah, usually you're feeling sick to your stomach after a game at Minnesota. It's hard. It's a hard place to play. I made that comment at the end of the game. I'm like, even though that team has not been great in recent years, and they've been a tournament team here and there, but even last year, that was not a good Minnesota team. I went up there on Super Bowl Sunday and really struggled. Won that game, but that's not an easy place to play.
Tough place to. Yeah, the track record does not always travel to Minnesota, it seems, and they always do seem to struggle up there. And odd start time. I had to end up watching it actually in the middle of my workout this afternoon.
It's a holiday, Cory.
Yeah,
that's the odd start time. There were NBA games. There were other games earlier in the afternoon that started like noon. So it's kind of a weird situation, but it is a yearly thing in Iowa. I don't know if Iowa had to play on Martin Luther King Day, but they did this year.
I got you. No, I'm bringing back the lunch pail. I really horrible start. But I think they finally brought their lunch pails about 10 minutes in, and they I really appreciated the way they kind of grinded it out, even if the outside shots weren't falling. And I think that's a thing that this year's team is bringing differently than past teams. Is they seem over the last 3 games to make an effort to not always just be hell bent on the 3. It seems like they're more. Am I off by saying that, or am I kind of?
No, I think I was going to bring up rebounding because to see them go on the road against a team. Now I was, without Patrick in there. I hate to say this, but even with replacing Patrick with a shorter Josh Dix, you have Freeman and Cricky at the 4 and the 5. They can battle. In there. And go on the road and win decisively on the glass like they did today. 37-30 was the final tally on the glass. That's significant. And, it wasn't just Iowa's bigs. I thought Tony Perkins had a couple of huge rebounds, specifically late in the game. Had 3 offensive rebounds, led all Iowa players with 3 offensive rebounds. That's huge. We talk about that all the time with Caitlin Clark and with Sydney Falter, Kasheen Alexander, her career.
Yeah.
Tony Perkins has a knack for doing it as well. He has got a good wingspan, and he made some gritty plays today that saved some possessions.
Yeah, it just seemed like, Tony, there was one play that I saw him go up for a ball, and I'm like, man, what do you do with that? He just wanted it more. I mean, and that's, you know.
And there was one call I know that Minnesota fans did not like where he kind of came over the back.
Yeah.
And I think Minnesota fans had a reason to be frustrated by the call simply because I don't really know what else you're supposed to do as a defensive rebounder. But here's what I'll say, Corey. Credit to Tony Perkins because he worked for that rebound. He just skied and outworked the other player, whether it was a foul or not. And I like obviously as an Iowa fan, I like the no call, but I think, let the two guys battle equally for the rebound.
Yeah, I like when the refs kind of do let them battle like that, but it didn't seem like there was like swayed one way or the other with the refs. I think there was ticky-tacks on both sides, and I think the refs, I mean,
I don't
as
think
far as refs, I think as the refs, as far as this game went, it could have been as neutral as you could have drawn it up. I think there was stuff on both sides that kind of just,
I don't think officiating had really any major move in this game. And there were a number of travels. Like I said, I thought there was one that Josh Dix got called for where where he slid that pivot foot. I just thought there were a number of, I don't know if the court was a little slick like the game in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, but it seemed that way to me. Maybe, like I say, due to the weather outside, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely could have been. But no, that's really all I had on this one. Looking forward to seeing the women out tomorrow night, and I hope you have a good one.
Is it tomorrow night or is it Wednesday night?
I believe it's tomorrow night.
Well, you're right. Is it already tomorrow? I feel like we just did the show with Kasheen on.
Yeah.
Is it really tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Is it really? Let me look at the schedule here.
It was Saturday. I guess it's a short turnaround. I thought it was Wednesday, but I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. Tomorrow night against Wisconsin, blackout at home. So, man, these games fly by, especially when you have two teams that you're invested in.
You're telling me, dude, I'm gonna blink and it's gonna be February. I mean, it's
well, I'm all right with it being. I'm all right with blinking it being like summertime, but I don't really want to blink and it be February.
You're over the cold, Corey?
I'm over it before it gets here.
You're over it before it gets here. Not a winter guy. I say I'm personally a winter guy this year because I bought a brand new snowblower and I have loved using it lately.
You also have a dog. You have a brand new dog.
I have a brand new dog. He doesn't seem to mind the cold. You want to make an appearance?
Yeah. Let's see. Isn't it? What's his name again? Hawkeye? Hawk. I'm sorry. Hawk. Oh, he's getting bigger.
Yeah, he's huge now. He's like almost. I took him to the vet recently. He's like 40 pounds, and he's not even 5 months yet. He's so big. And
he's a German Shepherd mix?
German Shepherd Collie mix.
Collie, okay.
Yeah. He found his bone underneath the couch. That's why I'm sorry if he was being loud earlier. But
no, you're good.
Yeah.
Well, Corey, it's a joy to see you as always and chat with you.
Always.
We'll plan on talking tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's hope the women can keep it going, and then the men later on in the week, big game against Purdue on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night. Always good to hear from the other Corey. And if you want to give me a call the show, you can either do so by StreamYard. It's in the description. I also added it to the live chat here just a second ago. Very simple to jump on StreamYard, whether you want to have your video on or not. Give me a call, 515-635-1601, or click the link in the description or live chat. Let's go to Ben, who's been on hold. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, Corey. I just feel like that this Iowa lineup is better with Dix in it. I mean, I feel like Patrick sometimes forces shots and stuff like that. So
I agree with you. They're different players. Obviously, Josh is a more pure jump shooter. I think he's less reliant on the fast break and getting up and going. And, I mean, you look at his numbers. He had, 3 rebounds tonight? 4 rebounds. For a guy his size, who's probably more of a natural 2 than a 1 or a 3, that's better than what you're getting on the glass from Patrick. And then you're more comfortable, I think, playing Cricky and Freeman at the 4 and 5, and that's going to help you on the glass as well. I agree.
Yeah, I feel like that the main thing with like Fran is like, he can develop all these players like Chris, Keegan, Luca, Joey's camp, but yeah, he can't go far in March, which is, my biggest concern with Fran right now.
Well, like Doug said earlier, you can't go far in March without first getting to March. So,
Yeah.
maybe, I still stand by what I said the other night. Desante Bowen is my X factor. If he can get going offensively, again, this was a struggle for him this evening. He played 13 minutes, was almost a non-factor, 2 points, 2 assists, 0 turnovers, 2 rebounds, but he's really not giving you much. If he could start emerging, they're getting a little bit out of Brock Harding as a freshman, which is good to see. Man, I just think if Desante can fulfill his potential or begin to fill his potential, I mean, guard play, they say, wins in March. Maybe we get an answer to that, but they got to get there first.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Luca there too. I mean, sitting behind the bench, supporting
It was.
supporting his former team, and yeah, I mean, I feel like that like Josh Dix will be this team's X factor for sure. I mean, him coming off the bench, I really feel like he should be starting right now because he's just playing really well. He didn't play well in the first half, but he's eventually gotten better overall. So
I think a lot of it has been upstairs, is my guess, and there's some confidence there now. So
yeah,
we'll see where it goes. But I think he's probably their second or third best defender. Some may say he's their best defender. I still think Tony, when he's giving max effort, is probably their best. He's their best athlete. He's long. But he is, I think Josh Dix is deserving of being a starter. And I'm not the head coach, but I happen to agree with you, Ben. If I'm Fran McCaffrey and I'm going with my head here, I'm going with Josh Dix moving forward. I think he's earned that.
yeah, for sure.
And maybe that will help Patrick in the long run.
Yeah, and I really felt like too, like Price today, there was like a layup he missed or something. I'm not, that was a tough layup to make, but I just feel like that, like, he should have made that because, I think there was like a defender in his face or something that he should have made, but,
Well, Patrick is, or excuse me, Price has been in a funk, and he didn't even play last game. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that was
today early, but I think part of that's a result of Patrick being out. If Patrick's not out, do we even see Price in this game? Price finished with 7 minutes. We almost certainly don't see Evan, and Evan was in because of the foul trouble to Owen Freeman. And then Lodgy comes in and plays 14 minutes and gets 5 or 4 quick fouls. So, part of it is the rotation was shorter today, but I agree with you. Price is in a funk as well, and maybe he can get going. There are a number of guys, whether it be Desante Bowen with his ability to attack in the lane, whether it be Price Sanford from outside. I think Lodgy's got some untapped athleticism that we haven't really seen the fruits of yet. If one of those guys can build a little confidence, I feel like all 3 of those guys are kind of in a funk right now. And if one of them can emerge and everybody else continues what they're doing, especially in the offensive end, yeah, they get a shot.
Yeah, and I just real quick, I mean, I just feel like Eric Hall should have came back. I've heard you say on previous shows that you were still maybe going, but I just feel like that, with all the injuries that he's had, I feel like that he could have came back and got his stock better. But it is what it is, and
yeah, it sounds like that was a done deal quite a while ago, and I understand having a child, and he's had a long struggle. I mean, he recovered from a serious injury at Michigan. It would have been great to see him back at Iowa, but maybe he'll be drafted. I don't know where he's projected to go in the draft, but perhaps he can add to the Iowa tight end legacy. That would be a good stepping stone to, I think, another guy in Luke Lachey who will likely be drafted in 25.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of tight end, it was just great to see Laporta scoring yesterday. I think he's the best tight end in the league. Kelsey's had a down year, so, and Kittle's been okay, but it was just nice to see a guy from Iowa scoring, doing well in the NFL in Laporta. So, and one more thing on basketball, I just feel like that Peyton sometimes forces shots up. He doesn't use his feet or whatever. He just forces them up.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe his shot. And I don't know. Price, I think, maybe has a little bit more of a natural stroke, but they both kind of shoot similarly. I think the hope that we can have, Ben, based upon history with Peyton, is that he gets hot at the right time. Because when he does get hot, he is lethal from outside. But I do think, like we said earlier in the show, without that repetitive motion with his shot, he's going to stay streaky. Those are my 2 cents, at least.
Yeah, I just feel like that, like, they have different shots, but like I feel like Price's shot is like more like, how do I say it? It's more like it like goes in more. You feel like it's gonna go in more with like Price. I feel like with Peyton, it's just like you don't know if it's gonna go in or not. So like, it's just kind of. But overall, it was a good game. Great win on the road for Iowa, and hopefully that they can beat Purdue at home. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. I'm excited, and 3 straight, and this is where they need to be, and hopefully play Saturday without a care in the world, and who knows what happens at home.
Yeah, for sure. They I don't think they're going to win, but I think that they can play Purdue tough. So
that's what we can hope for.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it, sir. Yeah, good stuff. And I see a couple of comments here. The Hawkeye 128, DeSante had some key assists in the game, which is the main thing that he needed to do when he's in. Yeah, sure. I get that. But he is a scoring point guard. Like, that's what he is. That was what he was out of high school. He wants to attack, and he's not doing that right now well enough. And I think he's kind of had a bugaboo about kind of going up, showing strong, and then not finishing well through contact. I think he did. I believe he finished 1 tonight, ended up with 2 points. He had one make, and he finished well on the one play that he did, one bucket that he did make. But I'd like to see more consistency there, because I think his offensive game is still just, to me, when I look at him, I don't see a guy who's confident right now, and I get it. And he's not making jump shots either, and he's kind of stopped shooting threes. So, will that light click on this season? We can hope. Jeffrey says the team started deferring to Dix in the second half. Yeah, I think that's what is great about this team is, for the most part, we talk about not having one quote unquote alpha, but they do have a number of guys who can go off on any night. And Fran has made that statement in the past, but I think that is a fact this year with guys like Josh Dix, guys like Tony Perkins, guys like Ben Krikke, Peyton Sandfort. Like, they have guys that can just start taking over a game. Owen Freeman kind of did that down in San Diego earlier this year. So this will be interesting to see. I'm not as high on Dembele as some people here in the chat. Ari Gold says that Dembele shows outstanding potential. I think he's got great upside, but he's got to learn how to defend without fouling. I don't know what his plus. I guess I could grab his plus minus. He actually had a plus minus of plus 17, which is amazing to me. Plus 17, had 0 points, took 4 fouls, 6 rebounds. That's a good sign for a guy who's really athletic. 6 rebounds in 14 minutes. I'll give him that. And like I say, somehow had the best plus minus of anybody. Again, I don't know how much plus minus we should really read into. Owen Freeman had the worst plus minus with 12 points, 8 boards. Josh Dix had second worst, and it was tied with Tony Perkins, who also put up 13, 5, and 3. So I don't know how much you can read into that stat on a singular game basis, but Dembele does have some athleticism that I think this team is missing. Several of these guys are just missing the confidence aspect of all this. And if they can somehow grab that and everybody can lock in at the same time, this team can be a lot better than we thought. By the way, the announced attendance, according to the NCAA box score, 8,379 at this game in the barn. So probably helped Iowa's cause that it was a 5 p.m. start. But I also don't think Minnesota basketball support is at an all-time high right now, coming off the year they had last year, and etc. So Katie says, ain't it great to see the maturity that has developed in Tony Perkins' play? Absolutely. He's become more consistent. And no, he's not always going to hit a bunch of jump shots, but he's pretty much giving max effort every night, especially on the glass, inside. He finishes well through contact. He's usually pretty darn good from the free throw line. Tonight, he missed at least 1 or 2. He was 1 of 3 from the line tonight, so that's why I kind of paused there. But he absolutely is playing like a senior, and that's what they need out of him. I made the comment earlier in the year. We talk about X factors and best players on the team. I think he is their most important player. Like, he might be their most complete player, even though he's not an outstanding 3-point shooter. I think he's their most complete player. And so anyways, Brian, this is an interesting question. I've never seen what happened on that missed dunk. So Owen Freeman misses a dunk. The ball basically flies up into the rafters and basically went out of bounds. It kind of banged up above the backboard. So technically it was out of bounds there, but I've never seen this happen. It was a foul. So the ball came rolling back over the backboard and went in. And it took 3 or 4 seconds at least for this ball to go back in the hoop. It was waved off. He got 2 shots, but I've just never seen that happen. So when the ball goes out of bounds, apparently that means the play is dead and there's no chance of an and one. And the reason I asked that question is because the whistle's blown and technically it's part of the continuation, but apparently, according to the rule book, out of bounds still exists, if that makes sense, after the whistle. If people are kind of following my train of thought there, it's just one of the most peculiar things I've seen in a basketball game ever. And so interesting stuff there. Zach says, is that Iowa's first road win? It is. They were 0-4 heading into this game. Remember, they got blown out at Iowa State. They got blown out at Purdue. They lost. Let's see. What was their who did they lose to? Obviously at Creighton. Tough Creighton team. They had some hard contests on the road. No question about it. Really tough games on the road so far for the Hawkeyes. And then their fourth loss was against who? Am I missing somebody in there? I think they were 0-4, correct? Let's see. They were, at Wisconsin. So the game where I didn't think the Badgers played very well, and Iowa still managed to lose that game. That would have been a really good win if they could have pulled that one off on the road, but a weak second half, and the Badgers pulled away. Laura in the chat says they had people spending a lot of time wiping scuffs off the floor. She says she was at the game. Looked like it was slick. That's what it looked like to me on television. I thought that was odd, but again, maybe it has to do with the weather up there. I'm just curious to look this up. Not that the game was played outside, but what is the weather in Minneapolis right now? -2 in Minneapolis, so not much colder than here in Ames. In fact, Ames is colder. -6 here in Ames, but still -2 is cold. Okay, -2 is cold, and so maybe that had something to do with the issues there on the floor. Jeffrey says 13 is raw, but still impacts the game. He's talking about Dembele. Raw is a great way to describe that young man. Again, a lot of upside for Ladji Dembele. The Hawkeye 128 says it cannot hit the top of the backboard. It can hit the top of the backboard, can't hit anything else. It hit something else. So again, right. And I understand that from standpoint of a ball being out of bounds. I was more so talking about apparently once the play is dead, it can still be considered to be out of bounds. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm making sense the way I'm describing that. But anyways, do appreciate that, Hawkeye 128. Please share the show on social media, folks, if you're here. Do appreciate that. Want to thank everybody for doing that in advance. I want to give another plug to Iowa Smokehouse. Mentioned them a few minutes ago, and they're with us throughout basketball season, both for the men and the women. Our post-game coverage continues through the length of the season, whether that goes into March or into even April. Tasting is believing with Iowa Smokehouse. Check out their jerky, their barbecue sauce, their ketchups, their meat sauce. All of their stuff is great, and it's available with a discount of 15% off by using the code Hawkeyes at checkout. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and support this Albia, Iowa company. Tasting is believing with Iowa Smokehouse. And also want to thank RTI Threads. The Cooper DeJean apparel is up. It's running. Get it now. Get it while it's hot. Get it before he finds an NFL team. And then you can get the NFL jersey on top of it. CD3lacesup.com. That's www.cd3lacesup.com. Also, Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer. Those guys, those dudes featured at rtithreads.com. Check out the merch and the apparel. www.rtithreads.com. We're recapping Iowa's 86-77 win over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We've got Tony on hold. Tony, welcome. Good to see you.
You too. How you doing?
Doing good. I didn't know what to expect this evening with this game. I went into it thinking it was a big game with a lot of implications, an opportunistic position that Iowa was in against a Minnesota team that I think is still bottom half of the Big Ten. and not much of a crowd up there. But I'm always reserved when Iowa has to play at Minnesota. But as Doug said earlier, did what they needed to do. They won the 3 games that I think a lot of us felt like they needed to win, and now you move into a tougher stretch.
As we usually do with Iowa home games, I am going to strongly question that 8,000 number that the box score is coming up with.
You think
I
it was
looking. Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of tickets available as of today through the box office.
How much were they? Do you know?
They dropped to $33 for the cheapest. I remember like when I was looking at maybe possibly going, it was like $50-some. Yeah, it was more than a game at Carver would be. $33 for those weeks.
What were the tickets on like StubHub?
I didn't look there. I was talking about through the actual ticket office.
My guess is there were probably $5 to $10 tickets
sure.
all over the place on StubHub, SeatGeek.
Sure.
And by the way, I liked when I went there 2 years ago. I enjoyed my experience there, and got to watch Luka Garza, big performance on the road, and Ryan Kriener and that team. They won up there, and that was right before COVID broke out. So it was actually, boy, that's been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy cow! It does not feel like it's been that long,
No.
but it has. And I actually like the barn. Maybe it's because I got to experience a win there. But good to see Luka Garza there and his girlfriend, I think.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure he'll have a little discussion if he didn't already with Owen Freeman. Maybe those two guys can bond a little bit. And good stuff. All good that came out of tonight.
I think Bardo said that when Owen was on the bench with those fouls, that Garza was like immediately behind him. Like, I don't know if they planned that. Like, Garza was behind the bench, but I don't know if they planned putting Owen in the seat that was behind Garza. Now, who knows if he said anything or not, but it was just a comment Bardo made. Hey, I do have a question. Stephen Bardo.
Oh, I thought you said Barda. I'm like, why
no,
is
Bardo? I'm sorry. Bardo. I'm sorry, Bardo.
Stephen Bardo. Okay.
Bardo. Hey, out of curiosity, do you have a pen or pencil close by? I just realized it was the podcast for you're a lefty.
No, I'm not.
You were holding your it looked like you were holding it like you were a lefty in the women's basketball podcast. Okay, you're a righty.
I might have been. Was I doing this? Because I'm turning my body and writing with my right hand.
Maybe I don't know. I just looked out. It's like, holy cow, he's a lefty. That's all I had to say.
No
big deal.
I'm a righty.
Okay. Hey, another rule.
I'm ambidextrous on the basketball court, though.
Okay. That's lethal.
I'm like Tyler Cook, man. Not with the ferocity, the athleticism, the size, the skill, any of that, but I can use both hands.
You got to start somewhere. I just had one quick question, and then I'll leave you. I wanted to know, as a rules clarification, I always like to look towards the end of the half if we can get like a 2-for-1, or even this game we had a chance for a 3-for-1. We made a shot with 38 seconds left. We got that 10-second call with 28 seconds left. The shot clock went to 20. Why did it not go to 30?
No, that was the shot clock was timed out.
It was on. I'm telling you, watch the game. I will wager any amount of money on this. The shot clock was on at 20, even though it was 28. It should have been off.
I'll go back and watch that because I thought the same thing, Tony. The TV. Here's what happened. Big Ten Network showed the clock at 20, like you're saying, and then they got rid of it.
But then I thought it looked like it was running out, and then that's when Iowa went and rushed a shot.
Well, I will say this. It was if that's the case, then it makes more sense. That was a terrible possession.
Yeah, yes, and that's why it seemed rushed because, like, I'm telling you, like, I was watching it live, and I saw what you did, like, where it went off, and then it went back on. I'm like, wait a second. We forced the 10-second call, 28 seconds left. We should get the ball with no shot clock and should be able to bleed this out.
So Jordan in the chat says if you inbound the ball at half court, the shot clock.
That's what I thought. That's what people are saying on X. And I wanted to ask Coach about that. And maybe you can see. It seems like this is a recent. Yeah, it seems like it's a recent rule change where if you inbound the ball in the front court, not in your back court, in the front court, from anything, the shot clock's reset to 20. I'm like, well, that seems weird because yes, you want to force a 10-second call, and I get it, but then why? that seems like you're penalizing the team for forcing the 10-second call.
So, in other words, if they had a 5-second call,
no 10 seconds, so the backcourt violation.
No, I understand, but I'm saying if they had pressed full court and forced a 5-second inbounds call, would that have been a 20-second shot clock?
The way that I'm understanding what people are saying about the rules, yeah.
Yeah, I just have never heard of that. And I did some amateur officiating fresh out of school myself. That's something I've just never heard of. Now, I've never officiated the college game, but I've never heard of that. And it's I was thinking the same thing. And like I say, Big Ten Network must have been confused for them to have taken the shot clock away for a second.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I know Coach usually is pretty good with the rules and stuff like that. So we've asked him stuff like that in the past. So just maybe something, see if he has an answer for the next time we see him on or whatever. You know,
well, that's what you're telling me to do. You want me to write that down for him? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't care if you don't have to.
You want me to write it down. You take great notes and you want me to your footsteps.
I'm telling you, there's other people in the chat that are saying they noticed the same thing.
No, I noticed it.
Yeah.
I noticed it too. Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. Maybe that is a new rule or whatever. I don't know. But
are you
my daughter's going nuts. She's 2. It's my daughter running around the garage and stuff. You know, she's just that's
have her get the energy out now, as you know.
Oh,
Tony.
I know. So she can sleep through the night. That's the plan. But,
real
yeah,
quick,
that was just. Oh, go on.
Let me ask you a question, Tony, before you go, because I know you said you were done. Who impressed you the most tonight? Was it Josh Dix or someone else?
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think he shouldn't have played the game. I'm glad he was. I mean, Cricky played well as too. I think people are. I've always said I think I like Laji the best out of this class. Now, obviously, Owens played well, but I think Laji, once the light turns on, he is because he hit a few threes to begin the season, and now he just doesn't have confidence.
And I don't want him taking threes. Tony. No, I do not want him shooting threes right now. No. I do not. Frankly, I don't want Price to shoot threes, and maybe that's stupid of me to say that. But as freshmen, they're in a funk that I don't know if they can work their own way out.
You can see Price had some chances tonight to take some threes in rhythm.
He's hesitant.
He's hesitant.
Josh Dix. I want Josh Dix as a second-year guy to shoot. I want Peyton Sanford to shoot. I even want Tony Perkins to shoot at times when he's open. But a freshman worries me because possessions are going to be important. They're always important, but especially for Iowa's offense with the defense, you know, the struggles they're going to have naturally because of how they play. So important.
But the thing you did point out about Laji is the 6 rebounds in the limited amount of minutes. He can defend and get after it.
He's got to learn how to not foul.
Yeah, he does. It was an interesting whistle on Garcia tonight, and he shoots very well from the free throw line. He's like an 86 or 87% free throw shooter, and it seemed like he lived at the line. I mean, how many fouls did he draw tonight? At least a dozen. I mean, 4 on Freeman, 4 on Laji.
He drew 11.
Okay.
So
I don't know. There's 3 or 4 of them where I was like, really? Okay. I mean, one of them where 2 Minnesota players ran into each other. And they called the foul on Iowa. I mean,
there were a couple plays from a verticality standpoint. I would agree with you where it looked like Iowa maintained verticality, and I was a little bit confused by the call. I thought I mentioned earlier though that the Tony Perkins rebound. I don't know. Did you think that was a foul on whoever he rebounded over?
Are you talking about when he got undercut and it was like the right hand side?
Did he get undercut or did he go over the back?
Well, they almost Bardo. Sorry, I want to make sure I enunciated that right again this time. Bardo thought it could have been a hook. He mentioned that that guard from Minnesota might have hooked Tony. That's why it might have looked like an undercut. He's like, he needs to watch out because Bardo almost thought it could have been a hook and hold from the Minnesota player when Tony kind of looked like it undercut him and stuff like that. If we're talking about the same play on Iowa's bench side and the right-hand side of the hoop.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And there was another
the small guard. And
there was another on the same end, closer to the Iowa bench, that I thought could have been called a hook. I'm trying to remember who that was with, but
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, on the left hand.
This is a game I may go back and watch because I'm curious about a couple of things. And I think we are starting to see. I mean, obviously, we've seen it with Gabby Marshall over the last 3 to 4 games, and I think we're maybe seeing that with Josh Dix. I don't think you go from not doing anything to all of a sudden 20 and 21 or whatever he scored these last 2 games. I'd like to think he's finally starting to click, and to see him do it on the road is even bigger.
Well, I think he's always had that shot. It's just he's always deferred. I think now, once he's had a few games, 2 games in a row like this, and Fran will ride the hot hand. So,
well, will he ride the hot hand as it relates to starting? Who starts on Saturday?
In game.
No, I want to know who starts on Saturday. If Patrick is healthy, you think Patrick?
Yeah. I mean,
do you think is that because he's his son, or is that because
that's because it's Fran? That's just how Fran like what has Patrick done to lose the job? Unfortunately, I mean, I understand, but the last game that he played was probably his best all-around game.
And Dix outplayed him.
And he did.
Even in that game, Josh Dix outplayed him. And in the other games, Patrick was basically doing what Dix was as it relates to production per 40. So I don't know. You're asking me. You're asking me. I'm just telling you what I think Fran's going to do. Is that what I would agree with you? I agree with you. I think he's going to do that. But I would argue. I know that's the popular opinion tonight, but I would argue in favor of those opinions this evening that I think Josh deserves.
Oh, I do too. I agree.
And I think it's a better lineup. I think it gives them a better lineup.
It is.
They need better 3-point shooting in that starting lineup.
And Josh can defend a lot better too.
Think about a lineup with, we got to see it, but you have Tony Perkins and his ability to attack and score at every level and defend. You have Josh Dix, who can score at every level and can obviously get hot from outside and defend. You have Peyton Sandfort, who's known to be a 3-point shooter. And so when it clicks, if it clicks, it's going to click at some point. And then you talk about Ben Krikke, who is their leading scorer, right? He's their leading scorer on the season, isn't he?
He's after 25 tonight. It's got it. I mean, he was 16 or so a game. I'm sure he hasn't had that down.
Owen Freeman, who's been like a 6-time freshman of the week. That's a pretty good lineup. Now, they're not going to get a ton out of the bench if Patrick's not playing, but if Patrick comes off the bench, maybe that will help him. And maybe you get something out of DeSante, Logi, clicks, and Price. I mean, you've got pieces that have upside, and I wonder I wonder if Fran shouldn't just ride the hot hand, so to speak, right now.
I think, I think he might. That's what he usually has shown in the past. I still think he's figuring out this team. I mean, he should he's the coach. It should be figured out by now, but I still think he's trying to figure out some of the better combinations. That's the best, obviously, the one we just covered. Those 5 are the best 5, I think. But, how the game flows.
If they're the best 5,
they should start, and they should finish. But we've also discussed in the past that it's really not about who starts; it's about who finishes.
I know, but why? I'm just saying, why start Patrick? What would be the reason to start Patrick? Unless if he is a leader of men, that much more so than Josh Dix, okay, maybe. Do you feel like that's the case? No. I mean, we're not there in the locker room, but do you feel like Patrick is the type of guy right now that's leading the?
He's not.
Troops?
He's not his brother. He's not his brother. If he had those intangibles, I'm just calling it like it is. Patrick brings other things that Connor didn't, but if he was like Connor, where Connor was a true leader on the floor, then yes, you could say that. But Patrick's not that leader. They don't have one, but I mean, it doesn't seem like they have one that's like that, like they've had in the years past, a leader. But
so that's further reason to consider starting Josh Dix.
Yeah. I agree. Right. But it's nice to have interchangeable parts. And I think like you also touched, and I will get out after this one, you also touched earlier in the show about it's nice to see that even when the 3-point shot wasn't falling, they didn't just keep chucking threes. They actually went inside and said, okay, the 3-point shot's not falling. It seems like in some of the games, even earlier this year, they fell in love with the 3 too much. And then, okay, you go shoot a 3, you miss, they go make a bucket. Okay, now we need to make that 3 up. Then they go shoot another. There's like 3 possessions in a row. They're like, well, we've got to shoot a 3. And now it seems like maybe they've learned from that. Because when they've gotten in a funk, they haven't done that in the past 2 or 3 games. They've actually went and worked inside to get a bucket.
Our user here, can you read the username for us, please, Tony?
Matt Painter's second chin.
Matt Painter's second chin says, this game doesn't show me much. Everyone beats Minnesota.
That is false.
They are better this year than they were last year.
They are.
And that's with losing Jamison Battle. But it is a fair point to say they have not played a real tough schedule. But it is also a fact that they were 3-2 in the Big Ten heading into this game.
I would be willing to say with some certainty that I do not think Minnesota is a first-day Big Ten tournament team. I think they will be at least fifth worst team in the conference or better, meaning they won't be in those bottom 4 playing on the first day of the Big Ten tournament.
So who are the bottom 4 right now? Rutgers,
Penn State.
Rutgers, Penn State,
Maryland. Maryland's not good. I'm sorry.
You think Maryland?
Metrical. That game was an anomaly for them. Yes, they have an impressive win at Illinois, but that's not indicative of their season. That Maryland game at Illinois, it's impressive. It is, but Illinois also has their own problems too. They're without their star player.
Yeah,
and then you throw out.
And that hurts the conference. Michigan's got to be in that group as well. I think Minnesota.
Michigan does too. I think Michigan is, because I'm shocked they're keeping it together. This is the weirdest thing with Doug McDaniel. The weirdest thing. I mean, I know he's academically ineligible and now it's coming out, but that's got to create some rift in the locker room. Okay, he'll play at home, but he's not playing on the road. And then we're just going to play him we're going to play him 25, 30 minutes. He's just going to start at home. And then, okay, now we've got a completely different rotation on the road. That's got to mess with it somehow, some way.
And they're not very good anyways. They've lost a bunch of games, and I mean, they're not making the tournament, and barring something crazy.
They'd have to win. They have to win the conference to get the auto bid.
They're already 7 overall.
What?
They're 7-10 overall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have too many losses. They're going to get too many more that they have to win the tournament. Have to. And I mean, and that like Jordan said, Rutgers, Penn State, Maryland, or Penn State, Maryland, Michigan. And you could even make an argument, really, Ohio State hasn't done much outside of that Alabama win. And Alabama is not looking as good as we thought. Ohio State doesn't look that. Yeah.
One thing we haven't brought up, Fran McCaffrey has become the all-time winningest coach in Iowa men's basketball history, and I know you're a Fran fan. So
yeah, and that was great to see his interview. I'll give a shout out to Circle Herc on X, because he's always a loyal listener here. He said, Kirk's tears are greater than Fran tears. But they're both great men, I would say. Because Kirk's tears, because Fran was crying post-game.
Yeah, why did you say that, though, that they're greater than...
when we see Kirk's emotion he showed, I think what he's meaning is Kirk's emotion. It's better to see Kirk's emotion than Fran's emotion. I'm not putting it the greatest of words, but I agree with what he's saying. Everyone gets more touched up when they see Kirk cry and stuff like that over Fran. I wasn't the creator of the content, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but
all I know is sometimes it's refreshing when someone who doesn't normally get emotional is emotional.
And that's, I think, maybe what you see with Kirk, because Kirk does not get emotional, that we see a stoic look, where Fran, we see emotion. I think you can say you see more emotion out of Fran on the sideline usually than Kirk, because Fran has that MO of
emotion, but as it relates to crying, Kirk cries regularly throughout the season. I'm not knocking him for it. I'm just saying he gets emotional regularly throughout the year. I don't know the last time I heard Fran get choked up. I'm not. Are we really debating Fran's tears versus Kirk's tears?
It was just something that I wasn't trying to put in debate. I thought it was
Tony.
I was meaning it lighthearted and everything. Oh, okay. This is the longest Midwest goodbye ever, so I'm sorry, Cory. I'll get later. So
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the call, sir. Always enjoy hearing from Tony. And Ed here in the chat, I've never seen Fran cry, just frown. Well, he did get emotional tonight. It was, heartwarming to see, I think. Kelly, congrats to Fran. Think he was upset Patrick didn't play in this game. I doubt Fran looks at it that way, Kelly. I just doubt it. I mean, that'd be a good question, but it doesn't sound like Patrick probably could have, if like that was the issue, like he could have played a few minutes, but he wasn't good to go. And so anyways, T Hink says, I already addressed this earlier, T Hink, if you missed the first part of the show, can you report on the new OC rumor, the go-go offense? There's nothing to report. I've been told that it's just more rumors. I don't have any reason to believe there's truth to it. I'd like for it to be true. I hope it is, but I have not been given any indication that it is. Kelvin Fisher, same thing. OS for Hawks. Is there new OC news? Not that I'm aware of. Esther. Hello, Cory. How are you doing tonight? I am doing good. Thank you, Esther. Appreciate the kindness. And Jake says, I won't be able to call in tonight, but shout out to the Hawk fans who made it to the barn tonight. A few Let's Go Hawks chants happened as the Minnesota fans filed out early. Huge win. Shout out to Josh Dix. And that gives us a chance to plug our RTI Threads player of the game, which was Josh Dix with his 21 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. He had some tough shots in that second half and some big shots during a stretch where Minnesota, these two teams went back and forth. It seemed like Iowa could not push that lead from 5 to 9 up into double digits until late. But Josh Dix made some big plays when Minnesota came charging. And it was also 2 of 4 from 3, 7 of 12 from the field overall. 5 assists, 1 turnover. Or excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong line. 5 assists, 2 turnovers. But how about these numbers for Iowa? 5 assists, 2 turnovers for Josh Dix. 5 assists, 1 turnover for Tony Perkins. 5 assists, 1 turnover for Brock Harding. 23 assists, 11 turnovers as a team. You'll take those numbers. Solid. And Iowa defeating Minnesota on the glass 37-30. Iowa made just 3 threes in the game. And in spite of Minnesota shooting 48%, pretty good percentage in spite of their poor 3-point shooting, 5 of 29 from 3. Iowa shot better, 54% on the road, gets it done. And they were solid. The free throw line, 13 of 16 without a healthy Patrick McCaffrey, and foul trouble to Owen Freeman as well, who, by the way, fouled out. And Laji Dembele, who finished with 4 fouls. Iowa finds a way to win. Elijah Hawkins also fouled out for the Gophers. Mike Mitchell Jr. had 4 fouls. Dawson Garcia with 3. Brock Harding with 3. Couple things here before we give our final rundown of the box score, as you see across the bottom ticker. If you are interested in sponsoring any of the coverage that we do here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, specifically post-game stuff, we're getting ready already for 2024 Iowa football. So whether we're talking about football or basketball, men's or women's hoops, reach out to me from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com. That's from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com for sponsorship inquiries. Also, if you're interested in protecting your information, and who isn't, support the show by signing up for a free trial of Aura. Protect your information by typing in www.aura.com/Hawkeyes. You can also click the link in the description below. Aura.com/Hawkeyes, completely free trial, courtesy of Aura and this show from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Peg in the chat. Do you think Luka will come back and coach at Iowa? That's a good question. I don't know if Luka's future is in coaching. He'd probably be a good coach, but he's got a career in front of him. He's still very much in the discussion for a permanent spot in the NBA. I think he'll probably get that. He's been really dominant in the G League. And, of course, he's still got that 2-way contract up there with the Timberwolves. And he plays, of course, down in Des Moines for the Iowa Wolves as well. I do want to give a shout-out to another sponsor that has put in a lot of effort and resources for this show and for Hawkeye fans across the country. Ascent Nutrition. If you've heard about their brand, explore how you can start your ascent by visiting goascentnutrition.com. Whether we're talking about their Ascent coffee, their humic and fulvic acid, or one of their mushroom powders, you can check out all of the great benefits, including improving your digestive system, improving your brain and focus during the day, during the long day, especially when you're home looking at a computer all day. Who doesn't need better cognitive function? You can also just improve your overall health and mood, along with blood sugar, immune system function, etc. Visit goascentnutrition.com. Every purchase you make, you can use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. And every purchase, every time you order through that code, you're supporting the work being done here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. This is a Hawkeye-owned company. Iowa graduate Lance Shuttler, an Iowa native himself. GoAscentNutrition.com. Appreciate Lance being a part of the coverage here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, as always. And it looks like our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, we'll give it one last call on the phone line, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. There's also, you can call by means of StreamYard. There is a link in the description below. I don't know why everybody's just naming random Iowa basketball players, previous Iowa basketball players. I'm seeing Matt Gatens and Steve Carfino and Les Jepson and Ricky Davis. So I don't know what's going on in the chat. Totally fine. Kelly says, well, I can't even keep up with the chat here. She says, we're hijacking the comments with Legacy Hawks. Okay with me, Kelly. Appreciate everybody being here and having a good time. Again, final score this evening, Iowa 86, Minnesota 77, and a big day for Josh Dix, 21 points, 4 rebounds for Josh, along with 5 assists, just 2 turnovers, started in place of Patrick McCaffrey. Ben Krikke had 25 big points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Owen Freeman had 12 points and 8 rebounds. Peyton Sandfort, 9 points, 4 rebounds. Tony Perkins added 13 points, 5 assists, and 3 boards. Brock Harding had 5 assists to 1 turnover, along with 4 points and a couple of rebounds. Desante Bowen played 13 minutes, had 2 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. Laji Dembele struggled in foul trouble, but had a plus-minus of 17, plus 17, added 6 rebounds, and a couple of steals. Price Sanford played and had 1 rebound. Evan Bronze logged some minutes, 4 minutes with some foul trouble to the guys in front of him. No stats recorded for Evan Bronze, but he did play a little over 4 minutes up at the barn. And for Minnesota, Dawson Garcia, Iowa overcame a big game from him. He drew 11 fouls, 30 points on the night for Dawson, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Elijah Hawkins added 9 assists to 2 turnovers, along with 4 steals and 5 rebounds. He kind of did it all, although did not score effectively. He was 0 for 4 from the field with 1 point from the free throw line. Mike Mitchell Jr. had 7 points, along with 2 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. Cam Christie added 12 points. Braden Carrington had 5 rebounds, along with 4 points, 2 assists, and a couple of turnovers. Pharrell Payne had 3 points, 4 rebounds, and a turnover. Parker Fox, a one-time Iowa target from JUCO. He had 2 points coming off a serious injury last year. 2 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. And then Isaiah Enan, whose numbers have waned as his career has gone on, he had 3 points and a rebound. The Hawkeyes out-rebounding Minnesota 37-30. And Iowa won the turnover battle in a marginal fashion, 12-11. And a lot of those turnovers, seems like Iowa gets into a spurt of bad offensive, just sloppy play in first halves of basketball games, but they've overcome those as of late. Again, the Hawks shot 54% from the field, just 23% from 3, with 3 threes on the night. And dominated in the paint, 56-38. Also won on second chance and fast break points. Did not win on the bench, but of course Iowa's rotation was shortened with the absence of Patrick McCaffrey due to an ankle injury. Let's see if there's anything else here in the chat. Let's see. All right, I don't see anything real urgent in the chat. If I missed your comment, I apologize in advance, but appreciate everybody being here. Again, Iowa defeating Minnesota 86-77. The men will be back on the hardwood this Saturday. They'll take on Purdue, 1 p.m. Central Time on Fox Sports 1. Get tickets at HawkeyeSports.com. We'll have Iowa postgame coverage following the game with Coach Gary Close. The women play tomorrow night, Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Central Time on Peacock. We'll have postgame coverage for the women as well. Be sure to support the show through Super Chats, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Links to all those in our description. Brian in the chat, is Riley Mulvey redshirting? He is. He is officially redshirting, so the Hawkeyes look like they're appearing to not give up hope on his development at some point. So this was year 3, but technically next year will be year 3. So hopefully he can take a step forward with his career. He's obviously got good size. So We'll see you back tomorrow for Iowa and Wisconsin on the women's side, and we'll talk about football as well. I'll have a live show with Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, at 4:30 p.m. Central Time over at Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Thanks again to Iowa Smokehouse for sponsoring our call-in line and this show, along with RTI Threads. Check out the apparel line for all those guys over at RTI Threads, including Cooper Jean and company. And just appreciate everybody being here. I'll be back with you again tomorrow, and we'll talk more Hawkeye hoops. Have a great night.